What if you could bleach and color your hair without damage? With K18 Molecular Repair Hair Mask, you can have strong, soft, bouncy hair and keep using the color, bleach, and heat. This isn't just a damage cover-up, it's a deep damage fix. That's because patented K18 peptide repairs damage on the molecular level, which is really, really deep. So no matter what you do to your hair, K18 will be there to fix the damage. Shop at Sephora or get 10% off your first purchase with code PODCAST at K18hair.com.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
I'm Joe Williams, Wiradjuri Wolgalu man, and this is Sober Awkward.
The kettle's boiled, Vic.
Great. Perfect timing. Just a dash of milk for me, please, mate.
Here you go. Shall we get started then?
Have you ever woken up on a Sunday morning and said, I'm never drinking again, and then found yourself waving $50 at a barman by happy hour?
Are you wondering why everyone else can stop at 1 while you head to a dodgy after-party with a weird bloke called Disco Dave? If so, it might be time to take a deeper look at your relationship with your reliable social crutch, alcohol.
On each episode, we'll investigate our own dysfunctional dealings with booze and find out if it's possible to stop this deeply ingrained habit before things get too messy.
Yep, we're going to open up a shame shed of humiliating drinking stories to help you understand why waking up from a booze coma each weekend with a kebab sticking out of your top pocket might actually be negatively impacting your health.
Hamish and I are here to delve into what it's like being sober, an unwanted warts and all look into why giving up those cheeky pints or putting down those mummy wines will make you feel happier, help your anxiety and mental health, and turn you into the most sparkly, authentic version of you.
Won't that mean I become boring though, Vic?
Well, Hamish, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm Victoria Vanstone.
I'm Hamish Adams-Cairns.
And this is Sober Awkward.
So, Vic, this is the last time we're going to be face-to-facing.
Yeah, for a while.
For months.
Yeah.
We have recorded enough. You guys are going to be all right. There's still
You're going to be all right. There's going to be an episode coming out every week. In fact, there's going to be 2 still.
There is.
We organise. We're like a well-oiled machine, you and I.
People are impressed.
Yeah.
People in the industry are
Yes.
impressed and we're like, oh yeah, we've recorded for like 6 months so we can cover Vic's travails.
Yeah.
I basically can't keep up with you now being a world traveller.
We call it working remotely now.
Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
I like the fact that you're basically you're going on a 6-month holiday, but you're doing a little bit of work throughout for tax purposes.
No, yeah,
No?
probably,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Write it off.
It's all just work expense. We're going to LA, but mainly it's a work trip.
Yeah.
And having a coffee with someone sober one day.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're doing quite a few little things, aren't we,
Yeah,
Haim?
go on, tell us.
We're hopefully doing a show in London on the 25th of July.
Yep.
Watch this space for that one. We'll be releasing the tickets very, very soon. And I'm going to be having a breakfast in LA. Sounds very posh, doesn't it, Haimwish?
Hamish. Is that a type of sandwich?
Yeah.
Is that an LA thing?
It's a Hamish sandwich. It's a sexual thing. I'm going to be in LA, actually in Hollywood, believe it or not, Hamish. I'm not going to be a Hollywood famous star. I'm not going to be on the Walk of Fame.
No.
But I am going to be in a cafe saying hello to people, having a sandwich.
Can you name the cafe?
I can. The cafe. Good question.
LA is a bit vague, I fear. I'm going to be in LA having a sandwich. Come meet me for a cuddle and a book.
Okay, wait. Yep, so it's going to be on the 27th of June at 9 a.m. at the Salt's Cure Cafe, which is 1155 Highland Avenue in Los Angeles. I'll be there for a couple of hours, Hamish, for some breakfast and come and say hello. And the ticket price, it includes a copy of my book. So you can actually get your hands on it then. Also, by then it should be out on audiobook and ebook in America. So you will be able to download it. Probably by the time this comes out,
So
actually.
you need to get rid of them throughout the trip to make your luggage
Yeah,
lighter.
basically, yeah. I'm going to start off with loads of books in my suitcase and then hopefully get rid of them.
And then you're going from West Coast to East Coast, going to New York for
Yes,
another one?
I'm going to New York and I'm going to be there on Sunday, the 7th of July, and I'm going to be hosting a little event at the alcohol-free bar, which is called Hakati. I think I'm going to pronounce that wrong, but that is in 167th Avenue B in New York for one night only, Haim.
Jet setter.
Yeah, so I'm going to be having a little chat, having a Q&A and selling you some books.
So tickets to that are available through the Sober Awkward Eventbrite page, is it?
No, that's not ticketed, that one.
Oh, that's just a freebie.
That's just a freebie. Turn up, but you must buy a book.
Of her heart.
Yes, so I'm just going to show up, but you have to pay for something for me to make it worth my while.
Yes. And if you can't afford a book, just give her $5 or $10.
Yeah, or an IOU.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that'll do.
That's
so
that.
yes, I'm coming to America, which I'm so excited about. I can't wait to give some awkward hugs to some sober people. It's going to be lovely.
I won't be there with you.
No, I'm not.
No, fair enough.
No, I'm looking forward to doing something on my own.
And I'm sure the listeners are thrilled too.
Yeah, he's not going to be there, is he?
Yeah.
I must advertise that, actually. Hamish will not be there, and hopefully a few more people will show up.
Up the ticket price.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, nice. But anyway, on to today's episode. So I had the honour of interviewing Joe Williams, who you introduced me to. You met him through a TV show you did together.
Yes, we were on SBS Insight together a couple of years ago, and I just thought his story was so inspirational. He's a perfect guest for Sober Awkward.
Yeah, so to give you a little background, Joe is a proud Wiradjuri Wolgalu First Nations Aboriginal man. He played in the NRL for South Sydney Rabbitohs, Penrith Panthers and Canterbury Bulldogs before switching to professional boxing in 2009. He's literally had 2 elite sporting careers.
Incredible.
In his 20s. Joe is a 2-times WBF World Junior Welterweight Champion and won a WBC Asia Continental title.
Although forging a successful professional sporting career, Joe battled the majority of his life with suicidal ideation and bipolar disorder. After a suicide attempt in 2012, Joe felt his purpose was to help people who struggle with mental illness.
Some of his many achievements include, this is quite a list, okay? In 2015, he was awarded the Wagga Wagga Citizen of the Year for his committed work within the community, mental health and suicide prevention sectors. In 2018, he was awarded Suicide Prevention Australia's highest honour, a Life Award for his excellence in communities within the suicide prevention sector. And in 2019, he was named a dual winner of the Australian Mental Health Prize.
Yeah.
This is a fascinating chat. I really, really enjoyed it. I hope you do too. There are a few gems. I don't want to give away too much, but there is a story in here about how he broke his sobriety news to his dad that both you and I have described as the dream scenario.
It is the dream scenario. Amazing interview, Hamish. I can't wait for you all to hear it.
Enjoy my conversation with Joey Williams. Whenever we get to speak to anyone who has lived through any kind of addiction, I always like to sort of peel back the layers and try and find some sort of root cause or some sort of early indicator that maybe triggered the sequence of events that led to the outcome. When researching your story, it seems that perhaps some of those triggers came from being this sort of child star, epic footy player who signed a first footy contract when they're 13, and all the ego and the expectation and the pressure that comes with that. When you look back on it, is that the first domino to fall, or was it something else?
Yes and no. One could say that, you know, the pressures of all of that type of lifestyle and the pressures of expectation and all of that, like, yeah, it was there. I won't deny that it was there, but it was always about the escape for me. And this comes after, you know, doing a hell of a lot of work on myself over many years, escaping the noise that was in my head, you know, and a lot of the time, you know, I guess looking at others and the work that I do in helping others, a lot of the time that's what it is. You know, the great Gabor Mate says that addicts don't get addicted to the substance, they get addicted to the relief that substance gives them. For me, that was it. Like it was the escape, you know, and there were many escapes for me over my lifetime. There's been many escapes for me continuously over my lifetime. I find, you know, I'm constantly monitoring my screen time with my phone, because that's an escape for me as well. And it's not an escape where it's like you put down one vice and pick up another, right? So, you know, once I put the drink down, then I picked up food. You know, it was one of those things where, you know, that whilst there was no illegal substance, there was also then prescription substance. You know, it was always the escape from the noise, the constant chatter that was in my head and that had been there for a long time. So looking back, was it the expectation or was it the pressure that the expectation of sport gave? I don't think it was, because that need to escape was from a very young age, and we can call it mischievous teenagers that get into these type of experiences. But for me, it was about escaping that, and it was all means. It was alcohol, drugs, any type of activity to escape my own mind. So when I say activity, that's important as well, because again, another one of Gabor Mate's things is like, addiction isn't just substance. Addiction is, anything that people find relief in. For me, it was whether it was alcohol, then drugs, then relationships, and everything that was. I think it's all woven in to this melting pot around just trying to escape what's going on between your ears.
And what seems unusual about your story, you say you're trying to escape the voice and the noise. Am I right in thinking that noise was basically you're not good enough? Was that the sort of repeated message that you were trying to shut down?
It was everything of that, right? And the very first time I recall that, and I can't sit here honestly 100% and say that it happened before that, because I don't know. But it was most definitely on the back of a fairly severe concussion that I had at a very young age, which turned that noise up. And and there's, I guess it fit the narrative, because there's wide research now around the damages that brain injuries have, and the mental health challenges that it can bring with constant repeated head injuries and concussions and head trauma. So for me, on the back of my first concussion, I remember it so vividly, of that voice that told me I wasn't good enough, that I'd never amount to anything, and that progressively got worse and started planting thoughts, plans, and ideas to not be here anymore. Right, so it doesn't go from that very first time all of a sudden to the thoughts and ideas of suicide. Like, progressively it got worse, and progressively it second guessed and questioned and doubted, and every conversation that I ever had and every interaction or argument was because I was less than and I didn't matter. It was so much of all of the challenges that I've tried to escape in my life is around that narrative that is in my head.
How old were you when you had that first concussion?
I talk about it at all around the same sort of ages, around that 13 mark, 12, 13 mark, because again, like I was a very young aged kid that was thrust into playing against older guys on the footy field as well. So developmentally, like, your head's just not ready for that. At 13-year-old, I went from playing in the under 13s to the under 18s. And that year of playing in the under 18s, I was then playing grade as well, like coming off the bench playing first grade. So I'm a 13-year-old, like, playing against man. And then
your dad, weren't you?
With your my dad, yeah. So then the following year, I played another season of under 18s, and then under 18s, and then first grade, pretty much off the bench all that time, and then the following year just played first grade. Like, it's like at 15, 16-year-old, I was really, really grateful. Like, the best memories I've ever had playing football is playing alongside my dad. Like, who gets to do that? Like that's cool as.
Well, there's one of the things that I said, your story is unusual. 13, 14 years old, it's about the age when most people, start drinking alcohol. On the one hand, you've got these voices in your head saying you're not good enough. But on paper, you are not only the best at rugby at your age group, but one of probably the best in your age group across the country. You're progressing up the ranks and you're playing with the older teams and you sign this contract. I mean, there are such juxtaposing things going on in reality and in your mind. And I think it's something that we probably don't touch on enough in sport, or probably more so just in like child prodigy sportsmen. No one talks about the mental challenge of that.
I think it was also the juggle of walking between those two worlds, right? So I guess Monday, Wednesday, Friday evenings, I'm training with a first grade team, being treated like an adult, spoken to like an adult, with the expectations of training like an adult. Then I go home and get told to be in bed by a certain time and clean my bedroom, and then the next day going to school and getting talked to like a little kid by teachers. So it's the balancing act of those two worlds as well. And then, the old play hard, you party hard, the old bus trips home and things like that, where you sneak a few drinks and then the ego of what that is as well, of, signing a deal at a young age, being, I guess, blasted across local TV stations every weekend because I'm this kid playing against the men in the local competition, and the ego that comes with that. You might see your name or a picture in the paper, and then, of course, you go into a year 9 and 10 party at school, and of course you want to walk around with your head inflated and your chest puffed out, and then having a few drinks because you think you're the big man. It's the balance of those two worlds that I had a challenge with.
And yeah, rugby has always had a reputation of being a boozy environment, as, to be honest, are most sports, as are most countries. But for those that don't know your story, you then moved to Sydney. You're 17 years old. On paper, you fulfill your dream. You are playing professional NRL rugby for 4 years, and you are, like you said, you're partying hard, you're playing hard, and then you get sober and you retire. At still, a very, very young age. Did your sobriety play a role in your choice to step away from the sport?
Yeah, without a doubt. It's like, although, I guess I had more clarity, right? So I got sober at the start of the 2006 season, and then I finished in 2008, right? So I just found that I had nothing in common with any of the boys anymore. Like that lifestyle, I didn't enjoy a great deal anymore. And whilst I was always trying to fit in, because of that narrative in your head that where you don't belong, so then you go out and drink as much as you possibly can and stuff as much drugs into your system as you can as well, just to fit in, just to be accepted. So then when I wasn't doing that, it was like, I got nothing in common with these guys anymore. And whilst, don't get me wrong, if I got offered a big money contract to stay in the game, there's every chance I would have. But I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. I wasn't enjoying it. I had a real prescription drug problem where I was just escaping, again, like every night, as much like nights before games. It was really, really, really challenging, that type of behaviour. And it was just, when you're at that level, you need to be at your best and you need to give yourself the best opportunity. And I just wasn't. And that, I guess hindsight's wonderful. You can look back and what all of that was, but I wasn't, because I just didn't love it. I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I didn't love myself. I hated who I was. So I stepped away from that life. And then I guess at the end of the 2008 season, that's when I started boxing. When I walked into a boxing gym, it was just something different about it. That just, I'd moved away from the lifestyle of the drink and the drugs and the party lifestyle. And then you walk into a gym with boxers, and I said this forever. And actually, when I said to my dad, I think I'm going to box now, and Dad was like, it was only a matter of time. Like, it was always going to happen. Because I grew up in gyms. My dad was a boxer as well. It just gives you something that nothing else can give you. From my perspective, it gave me something that nothing has ever given me before. And that was, it's not even an air of confidence to hold your hands up. It's just an air of confidence and discipline in knowing who you are. Your goals become so much bigger, so much brighter. Whilst, they didn't involve the huge amounts of money of rugby league and the huge fans and And the profile of that, it just involves some personal goals that you go at the end of the session or at the end of the week, you go, holy shit, I feel good. And you just, the fitter you get, the stronger you get, the more you walk around with an air of confidence. As it's funny, physical conflict for me still to this day is something that I hate doing.
Yeah.
But I'll do it if I need to. But I don't like arguing. I don't like fighting physically, for sure. So, like, boxing wasn't never about that for me. It was always about the art form, the athleticism, getting my body in peak condition, the discipline of eating steamed chicken breast and not McDonald's. Like silly as it seems, it was just so much more. It just gave you this air of confidence in who you were as an individual.
It's interesting, we have so many of our listeners who reach out and say, I got sober, I found exercise. Exercise is now a huge part of my life and a huge part of my sobriety. And it's interesting speaking to someone like you. You were already a professional athlete when you went sober, and still you found boxing and, the structure that gave you and the discipline that gave you, and being in an environment where getting pissed at the weekends was frowned upon rather than encouraged, gave you all of these sort of lessons or tools that you could hold on to that would strengthen your sobriety even more, by the sounds of it.
It's funny, you say that I was a professional athlete, and I was, right? I was a professional athlete before I went into being a boxer. So there was that routine and the structure of that. But I never knew how to train. I never knew how to push myself. I never knew how to dig deep within myself in those tough moments until I become a boxer. I always say it now, I wish I boxed before I played footy.
That was my next question. Yeah. Do you wish you had those tools?
I wish I boxed before I played footy. To the point now, I'm a little bit punchy. My head's no good from getting knocked around the head too much. But I would like to see my boys box or my girls box before they chase their goals as sports people, because it gave me an inner grit that I never had as a rugby league player.
You've mentioned your dad already a couple of times, and him being sort of the inspiration behind the rugby and then the inspiration behind the boxing in a way as well. A lot of people tell us, when they go sober, telling their parents is one of the big ones. Telling their friends, telling their parents, they're the difficult ones to tell often. Your story of telling your dad, I found so touching. And I think for anyone that hasn't heard it, it's like the dream way that the news could be broken almost. Would you mind telling that story?
I guess I've got to paint a picture first, right? Our household, we're all musicians. So like whether it's myself or my dad or, cousins or uncles or, parties at our house, particularly Christmas time, were big, right? We'd all, everyone would all sort of meet at our house later Christmas night. It was the known, I guess, party house because, everyone was cool there. Everyone was safe. Everyone was looked after. It was way too much alcohol. And there was, everyone could play guitar and everyone could sing so it was a good time. And I got sober at the start of the 2006 season in January, the last weekend of January. And then I went, I guess, 11 months. So December, or 10 months till November, sorry. And then I busted, right? So I went to a junior presentation day where after everything had completed, it was at a local bar, and it was one of those temptations that got me. Okay, and then I went nuts for about a 3 to 4 week period where I found myself, because I'd only had my eldest child at that point, and my mum had driven up from the bush from Wagga to Sydney. We're going to do a changeover, so to take my son back for a week or to back to my parents' house. So we met in a little place called Goulburn, and I remember it so distinctly. We met and it was, Mum drove down, I drove down from Sydney, so we're doing the changeover, and then we were staying there that night, right? So we just stayed in this one bedroom joint. It was only me and my mum in this one bedroom joint in my little bloke, right? So I'd busted 3 weeks prior and give it a red hot tilt, and then it was this one night where I went and got a couple of long necks from the bottle-o, drank those. Everything had closed by this point. I'd completely drank out the minibar, completely drank out every drop that was in the minibar, and then I was searching for more alcohol, and the light was off. So Mum had gone to sleep. My baby had gone to sleep as well. And I'm searching around in this hotel room for more alcohol, sitting in the dark, trying to get more alcohol. And I go to myself, what are you doing, Joe? Like, how have you got to this point, man? And I remember Mum saying, Joe, it's time to go to sleep, mate. And then I've never reflected on this out loud like this on a podcast for sure. But I just remember going to myself, what the hell are you doing, man? I went to sleep, and then the next day went back to Sydney and went back into the rooms of AA and started that journey again. And that was in December. And going back to, breaking the news to my parents, I'd been sober, for all that year, and then I busted and went down that spiral again. And then I said to my mum and dad, I'm not coming home if there's any alcohol in the house for Christmas. And Dad was like, it's more important than you come home than we have alcohol, Joe. Right? So come home and we'll have a good Christmas together. That sounds beautiful. Sounds fantastic, but it wasn't the way it was going to plan out. I get home and Dad was 2 days deep, and it was he'd had a few, and I walked in the house and I went, that's it, pack the car, we're going home. And Mum and Dad both were like, what do you mean you're going home? You just got here. So I told you, I'm not coming here if there's any alcohol in the house. Like I don't want this life anymore for me, and I don't want to be exposed to it. Simple. So I just wanted to remove myself. It wasn't about trying to push everything onto anyone else. It was trying to remove myself. Dad and I had words, all of that. And then Dad actually said to me, he goes, if you think you've got an issue with it, maybe I do too. Will you take me to one of those meetings that you talk about tomorrow? And literally we walked back into the rooms the next morning, and my dad's been sober ever since. So my dad and I both and then we laugh about it now. But my dad and I have been sober 18 years together this year. And the times when we feel like a drink, and the times when, that sound of a bottle opening, or the thirst being quenched by that first drink, we can reflect on that together now and go, it's always, I reckon if we were both vulnerable at once, then we could have went down that path. But it's always been one's vulnerable and one's not. So Dad will say to me, no, don't be stupid. Look how far we've come. Yeah, good, bang. And then I'm smacked out of it. The other way around, so it's always one's strong and one's not. But, it's been many, many, many years since we've had those conversations. I'm talking about, in the early days. So it's been one of the greatest gifts of my sobriety is that I got to do it with my dad.
I love it. I love that story. It's so beautiful.
Well, this country also has a challenging relationship with who and how Aboriginal people are, and how we act. And what I spoke about it earlier, the escape from the challenges with with the noise in my head, and the escapism around substance. You look at different people when we know trauma, and we understand trauma, and we understand the discomfort that it brings to some people. You can understand that there's a hell of a lot of people in our country that have challenges with substance due to some traumatic experiences that they've encountered. And then you look at what behaviours are, and the behaviours are often repeated generationally because that's what you see. That's what you see in hand down. There's a wide conversation about the challenges of alcohol within the Aboriginal community, right? And that's widely spoken about, around, different topics. And it's widely, it's very polarized, and people make judgment on Aboriginal people for being drunks and unemployed and all of that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Right? That's no secret, okay? So what's super empowering is that two strong Aboriginal men walk into a bar and there's a pub full of non-Aboriginal people dribbling all over themselves with alcohol, and then offer us a beer as two former professional athletes, and offering us both a beer, and we stand there and say, no thanks, we don't drink.
Yeah.
What I've also found as well, the behaviours of that, that can be anyone and all people of all communities, is that people who are sober walk around different. And then people notice that. And so many people, they want that. I remember the very first conversation I ever had with an Aboriginal man who told me that he didn't drink. And he's a close brother of mine, and he helped me in the early days tremendously, him and his wife. They helped me in the early days of my sobriety, and I still thank them and love them to this day. I remember we were playing cricket, right? And we were playing for a local community, and we were playing cricket, and I said, are you going to have a beer, brother? And he goes, I don't drink, brother. And I was like, wow. Like, what do you mean you don't drink? And when he said that, there was everything in me wanted that, right? Because I knew that it was problematic for me. I knew that every challenge that I was having in my life, whether it be with my relationships, with arguments, negative form on the footy field, all of that sort of stuff, I knew that there was one common theme, and that common theme was alcohol and drugs. When somebody said to me that they don't drink, I went, oh, I want that so bad.
What if you could bleach and color your hair without damage? With K18 Molecular Repair Hair Mask, you can have strong, soft, bouncy hair and keep using the color, bleach, and heat. This isn't just a damage cover-up, it's a deep damage fix. That's because patented K18 peptide repairs damage on the molecular level, which is really, really deep. So no matter what you do to your hair, K18 will be there to fix the damage. Shop at Sephora or get 10% off your first purchase with code PODCAST at K18hair.com.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Do you carry an extra level of pride on your shoulders that, not only are you sober, but you're an Aboriginal man who's sober, breaking any stereotype or any wide suggestion that, Aboriginal people can't hold their drink, which is just the sort of, that was funny enough, that line was something that I had never heard of before I moved to Australia. Moved to Australia, and there's certain things that you learn quite quickly. Aboriginal people are horribly mistreated today, still wildly overrepresented in prisons. And there's this, like you mentioned earlier, this stereotype, they've got issues with addiction. And it's almost like people speak down to it. They can't hold their drink.
They can't handle it. We can.
Exactly.
They can't.
So do you feel even more pride about the fact that, yes, I'm sober and I'm an Aboriginal sober person?
So you think about it, like, words are important. I always say that the words are important. So do I hold pride in that? Of course I do. I hold immense pride in that. But what I think is more important is that I hold obligation to that. I hold an obligation and a responsibility to be able to share that and to be able to walk tall with that. So then, again, when you're breaking those stereotypes, my children, 5 children, and the oldest is 19. The second oldest is almost 18. So between those years of an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old is when I got sober. So only one of my children has seen me drink. Not that he saw me drink, but
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like I was using when he was alive. But I've got 4 children that have never seen me drink, that have never seen me have substance. And that to me, like some of the biggest things we talk about, genetics and disposition and all of this type of stuff. But one of the biggest things that is inherently passed down is our behaviors, right? And if my kids see me being strong in what I do, going to the gym and eating healthy foods, and not being abusive towards certain people in the community, being a man, being abusive towards women and things like that, then there's every chance that my kids will see those behaviors and take on those behaviors, right? Like so much of our behaviors are passed down, not just that we've got blonde hair and blue eyes, not that I do, but blonde hair and blue eyes, our kids take that on. Our behaviors in how we treat people, kids are watching everything that we do every single day. So if we normalize things like alcoholism, if we normalize things like violence, then our kids are going to pick up those behaviors and then just pass them down to their behaviors. So some of the biggest things, the pride that I have is deeper when I say that it's an obligation that I have to hand those behaviors down to my kids.
We often fall into the trap of thinking, I'll give up alcohol and then all of my problems will take care of themselves. And it's sort of the expectation that people have. Well, drinking was my problem, so I'll just fix that and then I don't have to actually look inwards and fix any of the deeper stuff. And for you, you went sober, found boxing, successful boxing career, apparently, seemingly as happy as you could be. And then 2012 have the darkest day of your life, where you've woken up in a psychiatric unit and you've tried to take your own life, which I know that you've described as one of the most important days of your life. And I don't want you to share anything you don't want to share, but what unlocked or changed in your mindset waking up that day?
I think I have to say it's the most important day of my life, because if I hadn't got to where I did, then I wouldn't be who I am now. And I've spoken openly about this, and it's widely documented about, my suicide attempt and the challenges that I've had with that. It was more a case of I woke up the next day and just gave the most amount of gratitude. I was like, what the hell was that?
Mm.
And I just thought to myself, I got a second chance here. I've got to make every post a winner. Like I've also got to get myself well. So it took me. It wasn't immediate, right? So that's a lot of people think, is that I had the suicide attempt and I went straight in the psych ward. So like it was a couple of weeks between, and I just tried to, as they say, white knuckle it and try to grit my way through it. But it was too much and it was too challenging. And I remember, being admitted into the psych ward and. Yeah, I was looking around that psych unit and just holding an immense amount of gratitude for just getting the help that I needed to get. And it was in those times where I said to myself, every day that I open my eyes, I'm gonna make a promise to myself that I'm gonna help people and do my best to make people feel well. And since 2012, what's that, 12 years ago, I've done my best every single day to do that with the work that I do. And that's, over hundreds and hundreds of communities through Australia and 35, 36 states around the US, North and South Island in New Zealand, like my work, not just nationally, but globally, it's part of a bigger picture. It's part of the promise that I made to myself that I want that if I'm going to be well, I'm going to help others be well. And what that looks like then compared to what it is now is very much evolved, without a doubt. But it's still that same narrative, man. It's just about helping people who are struggling with distress and help them to understand their mind so we can do the best we can to be the best we can.
In hindsight, what do you think you had What do you wish you had done between going sober and that day in 2012 that perhaps you did do after 2012? What aspects of the work did you miss out on or did you overlook?
I say the two most important days of your life, the day you're born and the day you find out why you're born. I had to get to my absolute knees and ask for help as to find out why I'm here, and when we talk about regrets as well, I can't say I have any regrets with anything that I've done. I've lived a very fortunate life as far as being a sports person for a long time. I've lived on the other side of the world, whether it was doing work or playing sport. I can't regret anything, not even the day that I attempted not to be here anymore, because it's all led me to who I am now, right? And even when we talk about regrets, the times that we regret or that we say that we regret, if we go back to that exact time, we had a decision to make in that exact moment, and we made the exact decision that we wanted to make. So we can't say we regret anything, because if we go back to the exact time that we're trying to regret, we made the exact decision that we were going to make in those times. So would I do anything differently? I don't think I would. Like it's all led me to who I am now. I've had without doubt, some really challenging times, and being separated from your family and your kids, particularly, has been the most challenging things that I've ever experienced. But it's like that's a forever process. Is that we're all trying to unpick this raveling mess that we've all either created or been exposed to in different ways. And I'm really fortunate that I've done a stack load of work to learn about the impacts that my behaviors have had on other people, i.e. my kids, right? So when you understand that, that's when you can start to change what it is and how you do it to make a bigger and different impact during that process, right? So I've got 5 kids to 3 separate relationships, and all of those kids now I have a very good relationship with because I've owned my bullshit. And whatever anyone else has to say about that, it actually doesn't matter, because we've sat down and we've had those conversations with each other where we've wiped the tears out of each other's eyes and just sit in those really times of vulnerability and going, I didn't mean any of this. And I promise for the rest of my life, I'm indebted to you to grow and learn and be the best I can.
Well, speaking of family, it's clear that on going sober, you have to learn who you were before alcohol. And I've heard you speak in the past about I was outwardly an Indigenous man. I look like an Indigenous man. My family is Indigenous, but you never really looked on the inside of what that meant. Mm-hmm. And it seems that you really began to learn about and entrench yourself in your Indigenous roots and go, look, what lessons and tools can I learn from the oldest known civilization on Earth? It seems that you're the more you understood about that, the stronger your sobriety seemed to get. What lessons did you learn? What have been the big takeaways from that?
It's not just me. Like we all can learn from the oldest existence of humankind in the world. Like clearly they did something right. Mm-hmm. To be here and survive through multiple ice ages and horrific times of challenges that we did. So what I learned about our old ways, and I'm no expert in by any means in this, but what I've learned about our old people is that all of the documentation now, and I spoke with a guy called and I don't want to date this chat, but I spoke with a guy just recently, a guy by the name of Nathan Wallace, who's a neuroscientist from Aotearoa in New Zealand. He said to me, and he's a Māori man as well, right? So he said to me, some of the the biggest experts around the world in trauma and neuroscience are now starting to say outwardly that Indigenous peoples around the world had it sorted. And the challenges and histories of colonization throughout the world disrupted a hell of a lot of that. So what we need to do for all people is start to look back at what the first peoples from this country did for thousands of years in our communities, how we did things, how we dealt with grief and loss, and you know, our birthing ceremonies and our death ceremonies and everything as far as, you know, celebrating who we are and how we got here and how we came to be. And then all of the old stories, we call them dreaming stories, or other people call them dreamtime stories, or stories of creation. You know, how all those things came to be are all birthed in values. Like, and you know, I refer to these two stories the most. Like, how the birds got their colours wasn't particularly a story about birds and colours. It was a story about helping people, helping each other. You know, Tiddalik the Frog wasn't a story particularly about a big frog. It was a story about greed and how we can't be selfish. You know, and those old creation stories and them old dreaming stories, for thousands and thousands of years, they guided our behaviours. And if we broke those stories, or if we broke those messages, or broke those laws, then we were punished. Right? But the underlying thread to all of those stories are deeply embedded values of love, care, respect, humility, compassion, sharing, like all of this really, really nice stuff that we can all learn from. And without doubt, there would have been complexities around things, 100%. I'm not saying that civilization is never perfect. But from my understanding, from my research, the way that we lived in groups of people, like the way that we are now the most isolated we've ever been since the beginning of humankind, the way we don't connect with each other physically, emotionally, intellectually, is why we're so sick. It's why we're all trying to escape what's going on in our heads. It's why we all have that inverted commas mummies and daddies problems. You know, you look at our old ancient attachment, you know, ways of raising our kids. We raised our kids with multiple mums, multiple dads. You know, we never had aunties and uncles. We just had mums and dads. You know, and we never had first cousin, second cousin, third cousin. We just had brothers and sisters. Like we were a family tight unit that everyone can learn from. You know, and there's so much in our old ways of doing and being that has been, again, words are important. I can't say has been lost, has been ripped from our grasp and taken away from us. The ways that we lived are counterproductive to the way that we should be living. The easiest way to put it is if you've got a people who lived for thousands and thousands and thousands of years and they're still here, then what they did must have worked.
Yeah.
Like, it's really simple. Yet in Australia here, we've gone from 100,000 years of living with and working with country, the environment and how we burnt country and looked after country and took care of country, to within 200 years, the joint's completely stuffed. Whether you believe it or not, you know, climate experts around the world saying that we are facing the inevitable with a climate disaster. Yet, for at least 100,000 years, our people lived with country. Like it just makes me so angry to think that why on earth wouldn't you sit and connect in with that knowledge to try and learn from it? It's madness.
I couldn't agree more. Totally. I've heard you've got this agreement with your family that if things are getting too much, you go out into the land with a swag, reconnect with country, build a bonfire.
It's not particularly my family. It's just Courtney.
It's just Courtney. It's a beautiful thing to have. But yeah, I'm sort of curious as to what that looks like. You know, how connecting with land can help you get over an everyday issue or a bigger traumatic episode or whatever it is. You know, I think lots of people listening will go, you know, I'm sober today. I've got plenty of trauma in my life. I don't know how to get over it. What's your tool in that situation?
When we talk about getting over trauma and self-care are two very different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about getting over trauma, that is a lifetime journey. It's a journey of understanding, and once you bring to the surface the unconscious to the conscious, that's when we can make change. When we're completely unaware of things, we can't change it. Right? Once we start to become conscious of our behaviors, then we can make some changes. And we also have to start to delve into who we are and why we are. You know, every single one of us, you, me, everyone, we everything in our life, in how everything that we respond to in the world and how we respond to the world, our first thought, everything is all formulated in the first 1,000 days of our life. Right? So, and we are wired for either connection or survival. Right? We're wired for love and connection or fear and survival. And you know, the anxiety levels of what are being played out today are a very natural response as to how we raise our young people, right? Because we don't have a village anymore. And, you know, people think the crippling anxiety rates around the world now are bad. I'll give you a tip. It's going to get a lot worse because of the way that we live. It's got nothing to do with genetics, or very little to do with, you know, the way that you know, the things that we are predisposed to. It's got everything to do with the way that we live and the environment in which we raise our people. So for me, it's about slowing down. What that looks like for you, what it looks like for me can be completely different. What it looks like for you might be a swim in the ocean. It could be, you know, mindlessly swimming down a laned pool where it's just you and your own thoughts. Slowing down, you know, it could be standing with no shoes on in a meditative state, right? So for me, getting out on country and sitting around that fire is that slowing down process. You know, you look at the natural circadian rhythms of the sun rising and the sun setting. That's the way that we should be. You know, we move less than we've ever moved as humans. We eat far worse than we've ever eaten before. We exercise less than we've ever exercised before. You know, and we are the most disconnected that we've ever been as the humankind. Right? So there are so many simple things that we can do. And, you know, look at this podcast. This podcast is about sobriety. Like, the reasons why everybody is trying to completely escape from all their problems down the eye of a bottle is because of the way we live.
I just want to finish by talking about the work that you're doing now, which you've described as your reason for living. It's effectively helping people to be the best versions of themselves, talking openly about mental health like you do here, both in Australia and around the world. It's no secret that helping people helps ourselves as well. You know, it's certainly one of the sort of secretly selfish reasons we do this podcast. Helps people. Really, it feels nice to do it as well. What has your work given you? You talk about that sense of purpose. What gets you up in the morning and excited about it every day?
You know, when we say, there's a great saying, is that you love your job, you never work a day in your life.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and I'm someone since 2014, since starting The Enemy Within, my organisation has developed and evolved and grown into different spaces. You know, firstly, it was around the work of mental health in communities and understanding and you know, awareness and education around that. To then understanding trauma and the impact that trauma has in the very early years of our lives, the impact of trauma and adversity in the very early years of our lives, and how that is all manifested in our behaviours now as adults. So my life is just about continuing that promise that I made to myself in 2012. that every day I open my eyes, I get to make a positive impact on someone else's life. To now, still continuing to do the awareness stuff and the educational stuff in different ways, but we've just started a new academy, which we're soon to pilot, which is called Our Way Academy, because, well, let's face it, your way hasn't worked. So we're looking at doing things with Aboriginal kids, aged 5 to 12, and doing it our way, because we know that a lot of, particularly the formative years in growth and development, is so fundamentally foundational in how we grow and develop as our older years as well. Like I think those years get a little bit neglected. We talk about the early years and early childhood years and how it's how it's needed with the work that we do, and then there's like billions of dollars that have gone into teenage years, and the problems are getting worse, and the problems are getting more often, and the money continues to be pushed into these organisations, with little to no impact. So we're doing things differently. Our Way Academy is about helping kids with their identity of who they are and the challenges that a lack of identity brings, and how it can impact our behaviours through lessons and values the old ways.
Sounds so exciting. I can't thank you enough. I just want to finish by saying this, which is, for me, it's not always easy being a British person in Australia, because there's this level of guilt that I've always felt about my predecessors and the history of the British person in Australia. And I've married an Australian. As of 2 weeks ago, I am an Australian. And there aren't many people who make me feel more patriotic about being Australian based on the way that you describe country, the culture, the history of this land than you. I really have a fascinating way of words in selling the history and culture of Australia in a way that's really connected with me, unlike anyone that I've spoken to since I've lived in Australia. So I really want to thank you for that, Joe, and thank you for being on this podcast today.
Well, the thing is as well, right, is that I didn't sell you anything tonight. I didn't do anything but tell you the truth. The challenge with this country is that it's been sold a lie for 200 years, and we've formulated an identity on what we thought that was. Now, the true identity of this country, the one that's been here for thousands and thousands of years, is a place of beauty, connection, love, belonging that we can all learn from. I'm a storyteller. People say, Joe, that you speak about things and you explain things really, really well and really easily. I'm a storyteller. That's not me. That's my old people. No, I'm just lucky to carry the beauty of who we have always been for thousands of years. Again, going back to a word that I used earlier, it's my obligation to be able to share that. And my obligation is about trying to unite a country and learn from the oldest living existence of humankind that everyone can love and celebrate.
There it is. I really hope you get something out of that conversation. I found him to be incredibly thought-provoking, wise. He's one of those people you meet and you can instantly tell this guy's done a lot of work on himself. The way he looks at life is someone who has really spent the time doing what we call the work. And he now has this very clear purpose. And I think that's something a lot of people that go sober struggle with, is they go, well, my identity was the party animal, and now I feel directionless, I feel rudderless, I feel purposeless. And he really found his purpose, not the day he went sober, it took a few years to find it, but now he's just this guy that wants to give back and help the world.
I find that with a lot of people that go sober, that lived experience side of becoming sober is so useful in the community, and Joe is someone who is really giving back. And I find a lot of people, when they get sober, if they are a bit lost and don't know where to turn, they often try to help others, which is an amazing turnaround. What a way to give back. Incredible.
And this was an episode that we wanted to do for a long time. If you live in Australia, the relationship that the Aboriginal community have with alcohol and the perception of Australians
of their addiction is such a touchy topic. I was sort of nervous going into this conversation. I didn't want to step on any toes or phrase it the wrong way. And he, I think, really offers an insight of what it's like from the inside. And particularly as a sober Aboriginal person, I like the way he described the pride that comes with that, of breaking that stereotype and trying to re-educate the wider public on why Aboriginal people have got this relationship with alcohol, and maybe we should be less critical of them and look more at the trauma that was caused in most part by you and me, our folk, the British people that came here. So he was the perfect guest to address this tricky topic.
It is tricky, yeah. It shouldn't be, but it is, and we're so thankful to Joe for coming on.
If you're questioning your relationship with booze, you're struggling to moderate, or your hangovers are causing anxiety, it might be time to reach out for some support.
Yeah, just talk to a mate about how you're feeling, contact a local doctor, find an AA or sobriety group. Vic's got one.
Yeah, just head to www.cuppa.community.
Remember, if you're questioning yourself, it might be time to seek support.
Even though this journey can be awkward, it is definitely worth it. And if you've enjoyed the Sober Awkward podcast, don't forget to review it, rate it, and share it with your mates.
Do they have to share it with their mates?
Yeah, of course they do. I'm not doing this for nothing, Hamish. Bloody hell.
How do they share it?
I don't know, just write it on the document.
What if you could bleach and color your hair without damage? With K18 Molecular Repair Hair Mask, you can have strong, soft, bouncy hair and keep using the color, bleach, and heat. This isn't just a damage cover-up, it's a deep damage fix. That's because patented K18 peptide repairs damage on the molecular level, which is really, really deep. So no matter what you do to your hair, K18 will be there to fix the damage. Shop at Sephora or get 10% off your first purchase with code PODCAST at K18hair.com.
We all love our pets, but we love to travel too. And sadly, they can't always come along for the ride. Don't stress. Trusted House Sitters connects you with verified sitters who will stay in your home and care for your pets, all in exchange for a place to stay on their travels. So, while you're off exploring, your pets get to stay safe and happy at home, right where they belong. Find a loving in-home pet sitter today at trustedhousesitters.com.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
So, as you probably know, my comedy memoir, 1,000 Wasted Sundays, is officially out. All my magnificent fuck-uppery in one awkward hit. If you'd like to get your hands on a copy, it's now available from all good bookstores.
We always say all good bookstores, don't we?
Yeah.
Are there bad bookstores?
No, it's probably ones with moody sellers.
Oh, yeah, really
Yeah.
depressed librarian folk.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah. So there are probably some, but we're only storing it in the good ones.
It's only made it into the goodies.
You can also get it from all good online retailers. The print version and ebook are out now, and the audiobook will be available in March. I've been writing my memoir for 5 years. It will make you laugh, cry and cringe, and hopefully inspire a few people to reconsider their relationship with booze. If you love the podcast, then I think you'll love the book, even if I do say so myself. Hamish has read it. What did you think?
I feel like I know a little bit too much about you now, to be honest, Vic. Look, I really loved it. It was hilarious and surprisingly moving, but I feel like I've seen you naked in a literary sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's worrying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From an emotional point of view, seriously,
It wobbled my teeny weeny wooden heart, Vic.
Okay.
My teeny little wooden heart.
Well, his wooden heart is broken. Anyway, so if you do manage to get your filthy mitts on a copy, please do me a favour and head to goodreads.com and give me a review. Doing that will help me get it out there to those that need a bit of sober support. So there you have it. My story, unwanted warts and all. Come and get awkward with me.
Not to be too demanding or anything, but seriously, go and buy it now.
Go and buy it. Go and buy it right now.
Yeah, don't just tell your friends. Buy it, and then buy your friends one or two.
Yeah, don't give them a copy.
Yeah.
Buy it, yeah.
And you know what? Don't be careful where you store it. If you lose it, you can always buy another 5.
Buy another one.
Yeah.